Hi everyone, I am Patrick McInerney from North52. Today I'm here with my colleague Bruce to discuss about how North52 can help to solve complex business requirements. For example, the National Flood Insurance Program in America, the FEMA program. Bruce, can you explain to us what is the National Flood Insurance Program?
Sure. It's a program managed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. It provides insurance to help reduce the socio-economic impact of floods in the United States. Homes and businesses in high-risk flood areas with mortgages from government-backed lenders are required to have flood insurance.
Okay. I understand there have been some rather complex changes to the rules recently.
Yes, the Risk Rating 2.0 methodology was introduced on the 1st of October 2021. It was a major overhaul of the existing program and changed the way premiums were calculated.
I see. What makes calculating national flood insurance premiums such a challenge?
I guess there are a significant number of variables involved. For example, there are over 35 property attributes, things like distance to a river or coast, elevation measurements, types of foundation, and then there are over 50 rating tables that are referenced. This all combines to about 1,500 calculations to arrive at the premium amount.
Wow, that does sound very complex. How does North52 go about solving this problem?
Well, fortunately, the calculations are very well documented and real-world examples are provided by FEMA that we could validate against. The premiums are calculated from a large number of sub-calculations, so we focused on breaking down the problem and working through it bit by bit.
I see. And how does North52 actually help with the process?
Well, North52's multi-sheet decision tables functionality makes it easy to separate calculations out into logical steps. You can solve the problem for one part, test and validate, and then move on to the next problem. And it's very quick and easy to do this using the no-code point-and-click interface.
I see. Can you provide an example? Can you show us what it actually looks like inside Dynamics 365?
Sure. One part of the calculations determines the base rates, so we have a separate decision table sheet for this calculation. You can see this on screen now. Depending on whether the property is levied or non-levied and has a barrier island indicator, different rates will be used.
How does the North52 rules engine look up all those rates?
North52 has a feature called Xcache tables, which allows you to store tabular data on separate sheets. To make them easy to read, columns which are used as conditions are yellow and columns which store the matching values are green. You can see an example on screen now which shows the base rates for non-levied properties. The conditions are region, segment and a single family home indicator, and the different rates are available in the green columns. There is a North52 function which allows you to specify the Xcache table, the sheet name, the filter criteria and the column you wish to return. For example, to retrieve the selected cell, we would specify the FEMA_base rates table, the non-levied sheet, a filter criteria of region equal to SC, a segment equal to 1, and the single family home indicator to yes. The column to return would be specified as inland flood building.
Okay, that does make sense. But I understand there are some more complicated rate table lookups as well.
Yeah, some of the rating table values do not correspond exactly to the attributes of a property. For example, when determining the rating based on a property's distance to river value, there are many potential values that are not defined in the rating table. The guidance from FEMA states that in this situation, the factors are linearly interpolated between breakpoints. Thankfully, North52 provides an interpolation function for this situation.
That is really interesting. Can you explain how that works, please?
Sure. Let me draw it for you. If you could imagine a chart with the distance to river values on the x-axis and the ratings on the y-axis, and we plot two known points. If we draw a straight line between the points, then for a given distance to river value, you can work out the rating using the intersect between the two original points.
So there are 4 values that are looked up from the rate tables and that are then used to calculate the rating.
Yes. For a given distance to river value, we find the nearest lower value and the nearest higher value and use the applicable ratings for these two values. Going back to my drawing, let's take the distance to river value of 111.2 and plot it here between my two known values. If we look at the rating tables, the distance to river values which are specified are 100 and 125. The corresponding ratings for these values are 1.082 and 1.05. The North52 interpolation function takes all these values and then works out the interpolated value, which in this case is 1.068, rounded to 3 decimal places.
It sounds like over the course of a single premium calculation, there could be more than 100 rate lookups. How does North52 manage performance for this?
Yeah, we could easily have over 100 data point lookups in a single flood insurance calculation, depending on the input values by the property owner. This is something we've spent a significant amount of time on tuning performance timings to get the best results within the Dynamics 365 sandbox. It is implemented via our Xcache module, which has the smarts built in to efficiently retrieve, store and process data used in the calculation and minimize database round trips. We even had to design our own search algorithm to allow us to quickly process tables in excess of 100,000 rows. This is just one of the examples of the value proposition that you get by using North52.
We've seen many tabs for different sheets in the formula. How many sheets are there?
There are 20 sheets. The main reason for having so many is to break down the calculations into related groups and make it easier to manage. It also makes it easier for testing. Most of the sheets are very similar, looking up values from the rate tables in Xcache using the building property attributes supplied in an application.
How did you decide to break down the logic?
The example Excel workbooks that FEMA provide were a great start. They had grouped their calculations, so we predominantly followed that pattern. Take a look here. You can see a lot of the named rows, for example, A to K, are mapped to decision table sheets. This made it easier to test as the formula was growing in complexity too. It allowed us to incrementally build up the formula and test against each row in the sample Excel file.
I see. What tooling does North52 provide to help you with testing as you were building up that logic?
There's a great feature in North52 where you can have a split view of a test record in a trace file.
Sorry, Bruce, what's a trace file?
A trace file is a detailed log of everything that happens when a formula executes. It shows all the values that are being used in a calculation, and if an error occurs, the exact point in the calculation. It plays a crucial part of the process when building complex logic. Reading and understanding trace files is a whole topic on its own right, and there's plenty of information on our knowledge base.
Oh, that's great. Do you think we can see the split view in action, please?
Yeah, of course. Let's load it up. You can do this directly from the formula. Find a record that you want to trigger the formula against from the Explore tab and open it using the split view. Let's take the example 1 record here and click to open the split viewer. We can make a change to our record, which then triggers the formula execution. Once this is done, we can load the latest trace file and view the detail on the right-hand side. If we scroll down the trace file, we can see the values being used in the decision tables. For example, if we look at the base rate decision sheet, we can see that we're retrieving a value from the Xcache tables of 2.255, and this is being stored in a variable for the inland flood building rating.
That looks really valuable, having all that detail available to you when you're doing your manual testing.
Yeah, it's very handy. Something else you can do is load the formula into the split view so that you can have the trace file and formula side by side. This is very helpful when troubleshooting errors.
I can see how that would be helpful, all right.
Let me show you. We select the option from here to load the formula. We can then adjust our view to make things easier to work with, like maximizing the window and adjusting the split. Let's say we were reviewing the logic for the base rates. We can navigate to the decision table sheet and review the logic against the values being displayed in the trace file. If there were any errors, these would show in the trace file at the point of failure, enabling a user to easily locate the corresponding position in the decision sheet and make corrections.
Fascinating stuff. It's been really interesting to see how you would use North52 to build out complex logic like this. But would you not just, could you not just use a Power Automate flow for some of this stuff?
Well, technically it would be possible, but the reality is it would not be really feasible. This is because it would be difficult to manage due to the sheer number of steps that would be required. It might even breach the limits of what's supported. Could you imagine scrolling through dozens of steps to find a specific calculation to edit? And it would be very difficult to understand exactly where in the decision logic you were. Nothing beats the compactness of a multi-sheet decision table for readability and ease of making changes.
Yeah, I definitely get that. And let's be honest here, our Power Automate flow would probably be a lot slower.
Yes, North52 does the calculations in real time. The result would be available before the flow even gets to the front of the queue to be processed.
I see. So do you consider North52 to be a replacement for Power Automate flow?
No, it's definitely not a replacement. We see North52's decision suite as a complementary and an enhancement to Microsoft Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. But where there is complexity in an organization's requirements, North52 will provide great value.
I see. And where do the organizations get this value from?
Well, there are a few key areas, but it mostly comes down to time, which always equates to money. And that can be savings made on delivery, but also benefits for being quicker to the market. North52 will make complex rules faster to implement, easier to maintain, and often when complexity is involved, people turn to custom code, and that brings a whole layer of additional maintenance just to keep up with Microsoft platform changes. With North52, we take care of that. And we also take care of tooling for ongoing automated testing.
I'm definitely interested in learning more about the automated testing, Bruce. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, well, that's a topic we could talk about for hours. In my experience, testing is something that never gets the investment it really should, mainly because it's costly and time-consuming to set up and maintain. One thing we've focused on is enabling our clients to build automated tests very quickly and easily without any code.
I understand your product TestShield takes a slightly different approach from other testing tools.
Yeah, that's right. Most of the other tools focus on testing via the user interface, recording scenarios in the browser and then playing them back each time the test is run. While testing the UI works is important, that's not where the real value is. The real value is in the complex business logic that runs after users have entered data. And this is what we've focused on.
I see. What are the main benefits of North52's approach in this?
I'd say speed and reliability. Speed for building the tests and speed for running the tests. Our tests execute on the server side, so we can push through many hundreds of tests every minute, much faster than systems relying on simulated browser input. Our tests have reliable repeatability too, compared with UI testing, which can be very brittle and susceptible to changes in a constantly evolving UI. Working on the server side makes things much more predictable, and if a test fails, it's likely to be a real failure rather than a quirk in the UI.
I see. Can we take a look, please?
Sure. Let's have a look at one of the tests for the flood insurance calculations. We have a test here which focuses on changing one parameter, the previous number of claims, and testing its impact on the premium. In a TestShield test, there are 4 stages when setting it up: assemble, arrange, act, and assert. Assemble is the first stage and defines what the test is doing. Usually, this will reference requirements documentation. It is also the stage where you would create records in the system that represent a perfect scenario. We use that scenario in the second arrange stage to define the records which will be created every time the test is run. Each row represents a new record that will be created, and you can see that we're changing the previous number of claims for each row. The third stage, act, is where we would define any steps in a process which would normally be done by a user, for example, executing a workflow. As everything is fully automated in our scenario, we don't have anything defined here. The final stage is assert. This is where the perfect outcome parameters are defined. When the test is run, these are compared against the records that are created on the arrange stage, and if there are any differences, these are highlighted with a failed test.
Can we see it in action?
Yeah, of course. I'll manually execute it now, but this can be part of an automated Azure DevOps process too. When this test runs, it creates 4 flood application records, each with the same field values except for the previous number of claims. After the records are created, TestShield checks all the values defined in the assert stage, and we can view the results here. If there are any failures, we can view the trace log and investigate what went wrong.
That's impressive. I only have a few more questions and then we'll wrap this up. When should someone get in touch with North52?
Well, there are a couple of tests that we use. One is around the number and complexity of the rules. If this is high, then North52 is likely to be a good fit. And the other is when you're considering writing any custom code.
And how would you initially engage?
Typically, we'll review the requirements for fit and then offer a free proof of concept to showcase capability. We'll help out new customers and partners as well to ensure their journey with North52 is a success.
That sounds great. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today around the FEMA flood insurance example and how North52 adds real value to Dynamics 365 and Power Platform projects.
Thanks. I've enjoyed it too, and I hope for those that watched it have found it interesting.